Welcome to the Voices of Vision series. So can you tell us about Be a Hero and the work it's doing to fight for health justice?
Be a Hero is an organization that was born out of a deeply personal healthcare struggle that my friend and comrade Adi Barkan, who is no longer with us, was going through. He was diagnosed with ALS in 2016, and pretty quickly after that, we were in the first Trump administration, and we were in a fight to save the Affordable Care Act, which was on the chopping block as part of the tax fight. And Adi found himself fighting for his access to healthcare, as well as to save healthcare for so many people around the country. So it's born out of that struggle. It's really important to our DNA. We see ourselves as a voice for patients, people like us around the country who are struggling to access the healthcare they need. We have a bold vision that a country where everyone has the healthcare that they need and deserve, that people can live and die in dignity, live their days out and die in dignity, and that no one has to go bankrupt or suffer the cruelty of a bad credit score or skip doses of medicine simply because they can't afford the healthcare they need. We believe that that country is possible, that in the richest country in the world, that is no doubt possible. And we spend our days fighting, working together with other people like us who are facing harms at the hands of this healthcare system to fight to change that and to fight for that future that I think we all deserve and that the next generation deserves too. We have a vision of building a union of patients in this country, the country's first ever patients union. And we have spent the last 12 months really looking at what that can look like. We think there's a huge gap in terms of power that really is representing and really advancing the interests of patients. What I want is that when people are sick, that they don't hesitate to go to the doctor, that they know that they can go to the doctor without going into debt, without not being able to feed their families, that people never have to skip a dose of a medication because they couldn't afford it, that medical credit cards are something that people go, we ever had those things? Like, those make no sense, that no one is going into debt to get the care that they need and deserve. A just healthcare system also looks like being able to get the care while we're well, that we need to stay well. And that is considered a luxury in a country where even when you're sick, it's often hard to get the care you need.
I'd like to talk about the financialization of the healthcare system. So we know that it has disproportionate effects on the health and well-being of communities of color primarily. So why is it that the effects are more acute for these communities?
Well, first, maybe it's worth saying a little bit about what financialization is. Financialization refers to the increasing importance or primacy prime role of financial actors, financial motives, financial institutions, and financial elites in healthcare and in how healthcare is structured, delivered, financed, all of that. Now, private equity firms are not healthcare actors. Most of them know nothing about delivering healthcare. They really care about making money for partners, for shareholders, for investors. And so when they buy a hospital, they're really interested in trying to figure out how they can make money off parts of the hospital. Private equity tends to go after the hospitals that are most vulnerable, most likely to not be making a ton of money. Hospitals that have a large safety net population or a large uninsured population or a large rural population and they're having trouble making ends meet are much more vulnerable to takeover by a private equity firm who will then carve that hospital up and sell it for parts with no care or concern for what kind of healthcare is left for that community. It is incredibly concerning, it's incredibly dangerous, and it's become incredibly pervasive in healthcare.
You're an advocate for healthcare, racial, and disability justice. You are also open about living with a neurological disorder known as transverse myelitis. So what can you share with us about living with a neurological disorder and how it has influenced your advocacy?
My diagnosis with transverse myelitis is an important part in my story and journey as a healthcare activist, though it's not the beginning of my story and journey. I got involved in healthcare activism after working with people living with HIV who are dying at home in my home country, Barbados, and being outraged at the fact that although treatment existed, that folks there couldn't afford the treatment they deserved. And so I went into college wanting to find the solution to this issue. And right when I was leaving college and I had the rest of my future ahead of me, I was really suddenly paralyzed from the waist down due to an autoimmune illness. The really important part of this story here was that at the time I was completely uninsured. And not only was I uninsured, but I was pretty sure that I was uninsurable, and I really needed healthcare. A lot of people in the community that I was living in advocated on behalf of me, and I ended up being admitted to a hospital in Vermont that took my case without insurance. I racked up more than $1 million in medical debt after 6 months in hospital. But by the end of that 6 months in hospital, I had begun to take steps again. I was slowly gaining some movement back. I was slowly learning to walk again. I certainly would not be walking today without that intervention. I was extremely lucky that the hospital wrote it off as charity care, right? Charity care in my case. That is core of both the rage and the motivation that animates all of my work and has animated my work since. I didn't begin there as a healthcare advocate, but that's one of the many experiences that keeps me so deeply in this fight.
Thank you so much for sharing your personal why. Really appreciate that.